Alright, so welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Nat Fashion Hub, the best fashion channel in the world. Alright, so I did a video on this shirt, a button down shirt, how to cut it. I did this video some time back, and today we're going to do how to sew. Right, so if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button and turn your notification bell on so that whenever I drop my videos, you will be the first to be notified. Alright, so first, this is how I'm going to press this shirt so that we'll get the line at the center of the shirt, because this line will guide us on how to adjust to get our button allowance. Alright, so if you look very well, I made a notch at the end of these two lines. I'm going to show you. So this is the good side. I'm going to fold the allowance to the back, which is the bad side. Alright, leaving ½ inch there for the overlapping for the button, but I'm going to press it back. I'll press it back to be just the way it was before, so that I want you to see clearly how I am going to give the allowance for the button. So I'm going to press it to be normal, how it was when I was cutting the shirt. This is how it was when I was cutting. Alright, so I'm going to pull out ½ inch from the allowance I folded behind. Can you see? Look at the notch there. So I'm going to pull out ½ inch. I'm pulling out ½ inch now. Can you see that I'm pulling out ½ inch from the allowance I turned to the back? I pulled out ½ inch. That ½ inch is what is serving as the overlapping for the button. That ½ inch is what is serving as overlapping for the button. Alright, so just watch how I'm going to do what I'm going to do with the allowance. Can you see this? I'm still folding it the second time so as to use my hemming gum to gum it. This is very simple. It's very simple. So all you need to do is just to watch how I am doing it, and you do the same. Okay, it's as simple as that. Just watch carefully what I'm doing and do the same. Alright, so I'm going to apply heat so as to melt the gum and hem the button allowance. So it's as simple as this. It's very simple. In case you are lost, just take it back, watch it carefully, and you get what I did here. It's very simple, very simple. And we are going to do the same thing with the second piece. This is one piece of the front. Out of the two front pieces, this is just one piece. So the second piece, I'm going to fast forward it so that we'll save time. It's the same thing I did. I'm still going to repeat it here for the second piece. You know, the front piece of a shirt has two pieces. All right, so the two pieces, what you do on them is the same. So the same thing I did with the first piece is the same thing I'm doing with this second piece. All right, so just watch carefully and you understand. I won't be talking at every point, but if you can just closely watch what I'm doing without even me talking, you can be able to understand everything perfectly. All right, so I'm just going to make the notch to be much more visible. Those notches that I had already made before, I just want to make them much more visible. All right, because that is where the both front pieces are going to overlap. Okay, so that's all. So this is the yoke. All right, so I'm just going to hem it, just going to hem the yoke. That's all. And guys, I'll appreciate if you can subscribe to this channel. As you watch, I'll really appreciate if you can subscribe. In case you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please subscribe. All right, so you see I've hemmed the yoke, and now this is the back piece. I'm going to quickly get to the machine, join the back piece together with the front piece and the yoke. I don't think this is new. Okay, joining back piece and front piece with yoke is not new, right? But let's just do it. So That's the back piece. This is the back side of the front piece facing the back side of the back piece. You can see the good sides are outward. Can you see this? So bringing the yoke now, the bad side of the yoke will be outside facing up, while the good side of the yoke will be facing the good side of the front. You can just see the way I'm doing, and then I'll carefully stitch it. All right, this is quite simple as well. And one thing is that as I'm stitching this side of the shoulder, I'm going to fast forward the second side. Okay, all this is just so as to save time. All right, it's quite simple. So the second side, I'll fast forward it so that we don't spend too much time. So you see we are done. I'm going to bring the yoke to the back now and stitch. All right, all these are not new steps. All right, they are steps we are familiar with. Okay, so it's quite simple. Bring the yoke to the back, stitch it. All right, yeah. So I'm just going to show us how the stitch is looking. Can you see this? The stitch. All right, very simple. So let's apply heat to the shirt and see the shape we have right now. This is very simple, very simple. Just stay with me, and within some few minutes we are done with this. It's very simple. All right, you just have to pay close attention, rapt attention, and you get this. So we are going to now trim the shoulders. If there's any excess, our shoulder is 17 for this shirt. All right, so but what look like what we have here is up to 19. So I'm going to trim is 19. Look at 17 there is 19. So I'm going to trim out ½ inch both sides so that the shoulder will come back to 18. So the 1 inch we have there will be for seam allowance. Even the arm, what we are looking for is 10. So we'll trim it a little because what we have there is less than 10. We'll trim it a little so as to get the 10. All right. And also when trimming, ensure that the back piece is not as deep as the front piece when you are trimming. Can you see that? This side the same thing. I'm just going to trim a little because it's already about 9 inches, and what we need for this arm, what we need is 10 inches, right? So trimming this gives you what? 10 inches. Okay, just 10 1/4 I have there. It's okay. It's all right. So our shoulder is now 18, so that when we stitch it we'll have 17. So even for the neck, I'm just going to touch it a little. Okay, not much, just a little, not much. All right, because what I'm looking for is 17. So let's confirm if we have our 17. 8.5 gives you 17, and this is 8.5 you have right there. So even our neck, I'm having 8.5 here, so it's cool. The next thing for us to do is to cut our collar for the neck. All right, so I have a lot of videos on how to cut collar. Okay, like this, the neck is 17, so what I marked there just 17. I'm marking 2 places. For the small collar, I'm going to mark 1 1/4 inch wide. Can you see that? 1 1/4 inch wide. For the length of this collar, I mark 17 because the length of the side of that neck is 17. Then for this small collar here, the wideness is 1 1/4 inch. I'm going to come in by 0.6. That is a little bit above half, and I'll extend the lines up. Right now I'm going to mark 2.5 inches wideness for the big collar. At the center it will be 1.5 inch wide. So using my French curve, I'm going to join these points together. All right, just extend a little, and then I'm going to mark out 3/4 inch allowance here. Just watch, 1/4 inch. I'll come up by 1/4 inch, then come in by 3 inches. I'll blend it together. Very simple. All right, so as to give my collar some kind of shape. Can you see what I did there? I curved it up there a little bit so that it won't be as sharp as it was. This is very simple, very very simple. Like I said, just stay with me. And so I'll just fold it this way. Instead of drawing the whole collar, I'll just cut one side and then fold it into two to get the second side. From experience, this gives me a better result than sketching the whole thing and cutting it from the beginning to the end. When I fold like this and stitch and cut rather, sorry, it gives me a better result, a very very better result. Okay, that's why I prefer doing it this way. So I'm going to separate the big and the small collar. Then I will go ahead to gum them separately. I'll gum them separately. Can you see this? I'll gum them separately. All right. So after gumming them, this is what we are having for the small collar. You see, this, just look at the way I did it, and then I folded the down part in by half inch. The fabric I made it extends there, folded by half inch inside. And this is the big collar. I cut the fabric, given allowance of 1 inch, half inch all round. That's also the piece of fabric I'm going to use to turn the small collar, as well as that of the big collar. I made a notch at the center of the small collar. Can you see this? Even this piece I've made a notch on both sides. Can you see that? So the next thing for us to do is to go to the machine. Looking at the cufflink here, you can see the cufflink here. I made it a length of 9.5 inches. The wideness is 2.5 inches by a length of 9.5 inches, because my wrist is 7.5, so I made it 9.5, difference of 2 inches. All right, difference of 2 inches. All right, you can see the length of my collar is 9.5 by wideness of 2.5. So you see how I cut my collar, my cufflinks, sorry. So I cut my cufflinks. I curve the edges of it. That is just a design, okay? You can actually leave your edges to be sharp, but I curve the edges of the cufflinks. It's just a little design I want to add to it. All right, so let's get to the machine and stitch the collar. Can you see this? Let's first of all start with turning the big collar. All right, so I'm going to sew not directly on the collar gum. I'm going to sew by the side. All right, my machine needle is not touching the collar gum. I'm sewing by the side of the collar gum. Very important. Very very important. So you see, next thing I'm going to do is to turn over. All right, but I'm going to notch it first. I'll notch it first so that it will give me sharp turning. I'll notch it. So next I'm going to do is to turn over, to turn the collar, turn it in simply, and I'm going to give it a top stitch. Okay, after this I'll give it a top stitch. Very simple and straightforward. A top stitch. This is quite simple, very very simple. Just stay with me, watch carefully, pay rapt attention, and you will understand everything. Even without me talking, you can get this. Simple. I'm going to trim off a little of the excess allowance on the collar, and then I'll mark the center of the collar. I'll make a notch at the center. This notch will help me to join the small collar to this big collar. Just watch, I'm going to use this notch as a guide. So bringing this small collar, I made a notch at the center. Remember, I'll use a notch there. Even for the pieces I'm going to use to turn the small collar, you can see how I place the big collar in the middle and the small collar on top of it. and the piece I'm going to use to turn the small collar behind the big collar. So the big collar is at the middle. Just watch carefully, see what I'm talking about. The big collar is at the middle. See where I stitched and stopped? I'll continue from this side again. I'll still stitch and stop somewhere there. Alright, so you see I'm going to turn over and then give a top stitch, alright, on this small collar as well. The top stitch now is on the small collar. Very simple, very straightforward. Alright, so the excess allowance on this small collar, I'm going to reduce it, leaving allowance of just about half inch, not up to half inch, just about half inch. But first of all, I'll make this notch at the center here, I'll make it visible, this notch at the center, so that even when I trim my allowance, it will still be there. So I'm going to trim this allowance and leave like just a little bit above quarter inch, okay, so that I'll use it to stitch to attach the collar to my shirt. Alright, so can you see this? I trim it, that notch is still there. So bringing in my shirt now, I'm going to identify the center is okay. I'm going to make a notch, center of the neck at the back. I'm going to make a notch. So I'm going to use this notch, I'm going to use to join, attach the collar. The notch on that collar will rhyme with the same position with the notch on this shirt. So now watch very importantly, this side, the good side is outside. I'm placing the bad side of the collar to be facing the good side of the shirt. This is the bad side. I'm placing it to be facing the good side of the shirt. You can see that. Please, this is the bad side facing the good side of the shirt. I'm going to start making my stitch. Very important. So you can see what I'm stitching. Stitching on about half inch allowance. Now getting to the end here, watch carefully what I am going to do. Alright, so you can see the allowance remaining when I gum this collar gum here is about half inch. The same allowance I'm going to leave here, that I'm leaving half inch here, the same allowance that I left while I gum the collar gum is the same allowance I'm leaving there, so that I will be able to stitch the collar. Alright, so just watch carefully how I'm going to do it. This second side as well, watch how I'm going to start stitching. The same allowance I left when I was gumming this collar gum here, can you see this half inch allowance? The same allowance I'm leaving here, half inch, before I will start the stitching. I actually have quite a lot of videos on how to stitch collar. If you look at my channel, there are a lot of videos there. In case this is not, maybe because of the color of the fabric, you're not able to see it clearly, I have a lot of videos on that. If you check my channel, you'll see so many. Alright, so the next thing for us to do now is to turn over the collar. Can you see how our collar is looking now? Next thing for us to turn it over. Just watch carefully how I'm going to do it. Can you see how I'm making use of this allowance I had left here before? Can you see how I'm turning it? I'll turn and stitch. My stitch now is strictly on that allowance, half inch allowance I was showing you there. Can you see that half inch allowance I had shown you before? That is it. I will do the same thing on the second side. Alright, the same thing will be applied on the second side. Yes, so this is it. So I'm done. So next is for us to close our collar finally. So see how I'm going to start, where I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to start here. Yep, I'll start here, and then I'll stitch all around. Alright, it's quite simple. Just watch closely and you'll see that it's very simple. ensure that it is stitched properly. The allowance, the seam allowance is not showing out. Okay, it's not showing outside. So you see, I'm going to make a double stitch. All right, here, just watch. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a double stitch, but once I'm done with this line, I'll give it a double stitch. Just watch carefully. All right, so you see, this is a double stitch I'm talking about. Can you see that? So as far as color is concerned, we're done with color for this shirt. The next thing for us to do is to work on the cufflinks, attach it, and we join our shirt. All right, so you can see our color. See how it's looking, very neat, and very fine. So let's press the collar so that it will take the shape it's supposed to assume. Right, always remember, don't use iron directly on your fabric except you're using a steam iron. Okay, mine is not a steam iron, so I am using this fabric so as to prevent the iron from injuring my fabric. Okay, shining it for me. All right, so you see we are done with that. You can see our shirt is already taking shape, and all we need to do now is work on our cufflinks. Work on the cufflinks, yes, so that we can attach the sleeve and see how our shirt will look like. I'm going to give it a final pressing. Let's work on the cufflinks first. So now the cufflinks, carefully, let me show you something. You see, this is the good side facing the good side of the two sleeves. These are the two sleeves. Bad side is out, bad side is out. So I'm going to mark 2.5 inches into the sleeve here. 2.5 inches of sleeve. I'm going to mark 2.5 deep, or 3 inches. I'll make a cut. Stop there. All right, I went in by 2.5 inches. Then that cut, I made it to be as deep as 2.5 or 3 inches. It's a choice. 2.5 or 3 inches is fine. So this is what I'm going to use to work on my cufflink. Just watch carefully. I'll cut this fabric to be 13 inches long, wideness of 2.5 inches. But when we are done, we'll still cut out the excesses. So actually there's no problem, even if it is too big. All right, it's better to have it big than small. So I'm folding it again to be just 3/4 inch wide. I'm going to cut out this excess allowance here. Can you see that? So I'm going to fold the both ends to get a V shape. All right, but I'm going to trim this allowance so that when I'm folding it, it won't be too strong at those points. What we're folding to get, we're folding to get V shape at both ends. See, I'm sorry, it might not be very close and clear, but what we are folding to get is a V shape. All right, you can see that it's a V shape, just a V shape. You can see that. Same thing on this side, I'm folding to get a V shape, a V shape. So once we are done, we'll divide into two so that we can use for the both sleeves. Okay, we'll divide into two. Can you see that? Divide into two. So another thing I want us to notice, this allowance I have here, I'm going to trim like 1/4 inch off. You see, just watch. I'm trimming like 1/4 inch off. I'm sorry, the color is blending, you might not be able to see very well, but that's what I'm doing. I'm trimming 1/4 inch off. Can you see that? So can you see? If I open it, you see. So the allowance that is remaining is not as wide as that 3/4 inch I folded before. And then I'm cutting this piece to be 1 inch wide by about 4 inches. This is my cufflinks. I am placing that piece of allowance behind, that is on the bad side of the fabric. I'm going to stitch it and turn it in. Okay, I'm making a notch here to enable me to turn it in. So I'll turn the little piece inside and watch out. Just watch carefully. I'm going to do it without me talking. You can still get this. It's very simple. My talk might even be distracting somebody from understanding it. But this is the good face of the sleeve. I'm sewing on the good face. The bad face of the sleeve is the one that is under. This is the good face of the sleeve. Please take note, this is a good face. So this is you can see the difference there. That quarter I removed. You can see the difference there. So I still kept it behind. I'll sew and turn to the front. Alright, so we can just look at it and you will understand. I'll make a notch here to enable me to turn it to the front. Alright, you see, just turn to the front and give the top stitch. Just watch carefully. Give the top stitch. You see this? Just give it a top stitch there. So the next thing for us to do is to close the sleeve and stitch the cufflinks. Can you see how this is very simple? Close the sleeve and we will stitch the cufflinks, rather attach the cufflinks. So these are cufflinks. We are going to start stitching. I'll just curve it a little, you see, just to resume the shape of the cufflinks. You see that? So just watch how I'm going to do it. I mustn't talk about. I'm going to keep it, leaving a little allowance above the same. You see allowance, the same allowance I have here, the same allowance I'm leaving there. Just like when we were stitching the collar, is the same, trick. Well, here is the same trick, just like the collar we stitched. The trick is the same. So if you actually understood that collar, then it means you don't have a problem with these cufflinks. So you see, the same allowance I left here, I'm going to leave it here as I begin to stitch this second side. And the little allowance remaining here, I'm going to gather it facing, the allowance is facing the side of the big cufflinks. Can you see it? Facing the side of the big plaquette on the cufflinks. So you see, just to turn it just like we were turning the neck is the same trick. If you understood that neck, then it means there will be no challenge with the cufflinks. Alright. Next thing for us to do is to close the cufflinks. To close it. I'm going to stitch not on the collar gum but beside it. All right, never stitch on the collar gum, is beside it, either cufflinks or the collar you are doing. You don't stitch on the collar gum, you stitch beside it. Next thing remaining for us now is to close the cufflinks. All right, just watch carefully how we close it. All right, hope you're understanding. Like I said, I don't have to talk at every point, but I believe we just looking at this, we should be able to understand what I am doing. Is quite simple. It's quite simple. Very, very simple. So I think we are done with this cuffling. All right, we're done with it. The next thing remaining for us to do is to attach to the shirt. I'll do the same thing for the second cufflinks. I'm not going to waste time showing us that one since it's the same thing, so that we don't spend too much time. All right, so I'm going to do the second cufflink and then we join the shirt together. So this is the shoulder. The notch on the sleeve goes to the notch on the shoulder of the sleeve. Like I said, some of these things are things we already know. How to join sleeve, we already know. All right, so the formula is the same. Just the notch on the sleeve joins with the notch on the shirt, and then you stitch it on 1/2 inch allowance. This top stitch I'm making here is not compulsory, but it makes a shirt look more good, right? So it's actually optional, right? If you want to make this top stitch, fine. If you don't want to do it, fine, but it's optional. It's not necessary. It's not mandatorily, all right? But it adds beauty to a package shirt. That's why I do it. So I'll do it on both shoulders of the shirt, all right? And the next thing for us to do will be to join the shirt. So we'll continue the joining from the sleeve area. All right, I'm joining on 1/2 inch allowance from the sleeve area. 1/2 inch allowance is what I'm using to join. You see this? Yep. So I've done that both sides. The next thing for us to do is to hem the shirt down. So I'm going to show us a trick on how to hem the shirt. I'll first of all do the first hemming. Can you see this? I'm doing the first hemming. When I come the second time, that will be all right? It's a very simple, easy trick of how to hem the shirt. Like this, you don't really, you're not stressed, okay? You make it very fine and with ease. So I'm going to turn it for the second time. It's double folding, but you don't fold it all at once. Since the edges are curved, if you want to fold all at once at the same time, it might not give you a smooth curve, all right? So you curve the first time, you stitch, then the second time that becomes the final curve, all right? So Wow, we've come to the end of this shirt. The next thing is for us to press it and see how it looks. All right, so look at the shirt. I've given it a good pressing with my iron, and look at what we have here. Look at the sleeve. Look at how powerful our shirt is looking. Wow, this shirt has actually took me into the night. I've made this shirt from evening till night. Okay, it actually took me quite a while, but thank God we are done. Thank God we are done. I believe that this is simple enough. Thanks for watching.